Spartan Games is known for some of its very good line of miniatures, such as Dystopian Wars and Firestorm Armada. But they decided to come out with a license off the Halo series, and that's Halo Fleet Battles. If you like Star Wars Armada, you just might like this. So why don't we get down to the table and take a look. The base game comes with two fleets. First, the Covenant. As you can see, you get all this in the box. It comes unassembled, and as you can see, I've got mine partially painted, so they don't come painted. On the other side, we have the UNSC, and as you can see, you get quite a few models. Again, you have to put them together, and as you can see, they are partially painted and still need a little work. Now, also that comes in the box is a very detailed core rule book, and it breaks down everything and does a wonderful job of explaining full color, and even gives you guides on how to paint and add to your fleets and point values to have campaigns with. It also comes with a very extensive campaign guide with a bunch of different missions all pointed out and broken down, so you can just get right onto the battlefield and start playing. It comes with a very detailed rule sheet, reference sheet, and as you can see, very good quality, as well as ship reference sheets, which is very important because it breaks down all the stats and the weapons and everything that you need to know, and is very handy to have on hand. And one for the Covenant as well as two commander cards, which if you decide to play, you can play with the commanders or without the commanders. It comes with a Covenant Supreme Commander and, of course, the UNSC Commander, and some really wonderful counters, high gloss, I mean, just really good quality. Everything about this is great quality. We'll start with that. But even though it has all these wonderful components, the main meat of the game is how does it play and is it enjoyable. So why don't we start by taking a look and going over some of the rules. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'm going to cover the very basic rules of this game. And let's take a look at Halo Fleet Battles, the Fall of the Reach. Now let's break down each ship. Now as you can see here, there is the word small. And that we're going to talk a little later when we go over the cards. Next is the movement, 10 inches, as you can see. Now, for the spaceships, they have to move at least half their movement each and every turn. And then we have the damage track. As they take damage, they go lower. Next is hangars for the little fighters. Underneath, there's the name, and then the build rating. As you can see, this is a build rating of 1, where if you had a bigger ship, over here you have a build rating of 2. Now, even though we're not going to use the order phase, which is the very first phase, I'm going to go over it a little bit, but not too much, because for this very short walkthrough, it just wouldn't make sense or be prudent to even add it in. But at the beginning of each turn, both players would roll dice. These are actually the command signals, which would give initiative. So for the Supreme Commander of the Covenant, as you can see, he has two initiative, and of course for our Marines here we have 4, so he would actually get to go first. Now, as you can see, there's different sides to the dice. There's only 3 different sides. There's a defense dice and an attack dice, and what you would do is put these in order and how you want to use them, and this would be for your executive order, which would be the first thing. And as you can see, you have different abilities, and depending on what you roll, you would get certain different abilities that you would be able to use during your turn. So that's pretty much how these work. It's a lot more extensive, but we're not going to really go over it. I just wanted you guys to see this and know that this is something that you can add into your fleets. But let's get to the real meat of the game. Now here we have these heavy-duty, very great quality reference cards for all the ships and the formations that you can put them in. And on the other side, as we turn it over, you can see we have the fighters, but we're not going to be covering the wing phase or the boarding phase because of how we've got this set up. But we are going to take a look at each ship. As you can see, here's our small ships that we were talking about a little earlier. And then on the other side here, we have our capital ships, which is considered large, and our cruiser ships, which are considered medium. Now, there's different, they break down all the things. So all those things on the card that you saw, movement of 6, damage track, which we were covering, and then it has hangars, boarding, craft rating, and security detail, which comes into some of the system loadouts. Now, the system loadouts, they have all kinds of different abilities that can do. A hard burn, which is something that you can go an extra inch if you use that ability. Missile barrage, point defenses, things to help you out. Titanium armor, which is a very big help, especially gets a very high powered and overpowered Covenant force. And then of course you have a breakdown of your weapons. As you can see, your primary weapon is a light Mac, which has a range of 10 short range, and then anything over 10 up to 20 inches is long range. And then your secondary weapons. Now you can see where the firing arc is. It has a front firing arc and the back arcs and the side arcs, the port and the starboard, of course, and how many dice you roll. This is why you get so much dice in here, because you get to roll for this particular weapon 12 dice. Now, with that said, and talking about the arcs, it's really pretty neat when you look at the card here. So let's just take our medium ship here, and we're going to put him right here so we can see, and we can break this down a little bit. Here's your primary weapon arc. So it actually breaks it down so you can see that is on a 45-degree angle, so you'll be able to tell if it's within that particular arc. And then the port and the starboard for the secondary weapons, which is on an inside ring, and then the secondary weapon for the front arc. So everything is mapped out for you for each weapon. Your primary is always on the outside, and then your secondaries are in the inside. So very, very innovative design and very easy to follow once you understand some of the meat and potatoes of this game. Now also on the card is the point cost, so you can build your fleets in a different your fleets and your formations in different ways, and total things up and add things and take things out. So just a very, very well designed and put together here. So let's take a look at movement and a quick battle. So we're going to take a look at a quick turn here. So here's what happens. We go right to the movement phase. Okay, now remember when we were talking about the difference between small, medium, and large ships? Well, the movement is broken up into 3 phases. There's a turn phase, there's a move phase, and then another turn phase. Now, medium and large ships only get 1 turn. So, for instance, during the first turn phase, it can choose not to turn. Then it can move. And the thing with all ships, they have to move at least half their value. That's more or less to allow for the inertia of the actual of being out in space and moving. So everything moves at least half its movement, no matter what. And then it can make a turn, a 45-degree angle turn. Now, smaller ships, it's a lot different. You can turn, move, and then turn again, or turn this way if you wanted to. Or with a medium ship like we have, it can turn, then move, but it cannot turn again. So it only gets that 1 turn. So it can move, it can turn in the first turn phase or the last turn phase. where smaller ships can turn in both phases. Now let's talk about the actual battle itself and how it goes. We're going to assume that we've already moved, and as you can see, both sides are very close to each other. And the UNSC is going to be able to take a shot at the Covenant. Now, you're allowed to measure, but we're not going to be doing any measuring because I'm going to just explain everything how it goes. You're allowed to measure before you decide how you're going to apply your firing solutions, meaning your primary weapons and your secondary weapons. So you can take everything, and because if a weapon all has the same name, you can combine all the dice and roll them all at once. Now there's certain pluses and minuses to that and so forth and so on. Due to long range, on certain weapons you get a minus 1 to your firepower. Each fire group gets a firepower rating of 4. And what does that mean? Well, here is your basic firepower rating. And it tells you what happens on each time the dice happen. If it's higher, it's considered a devastating roll. So if you get a +1 because you're in short range, each dice that you roll of these dice, as you can see, this particular one has 2 and a circle around it. So that means each time you roll one of these, it counts as 2 successes or 2 hits. Each one that you would roll, which is right here, counts as 1 success. And then on the very bottom here, you can re-roll a miss, which is this, and this is considered a fail, a complete utter fail. Now, each one of these are considered a part of a battle group, and they have to have a coherency of 6 inches. If they're out of coherency, they can't attack or do anything until they're back into coherency. Now, each one of these formations on this tile here are considered an element. So what can happen is, on the other side here, you can declare an element and fire everything at one element, or you can split your fire depending on the situation, of course. But for this, we're just going to concentrate on one element. So we're going to pick these guys right here and see how they turn out. Now, they're very high powered, so we're going to want to take them out, and we're going to use pretty much everything that we possibly can. Now, like I was saying, on the firepower card, and we're going to zoom in here a bit to take a look at this card. Okay, so what we have here is we're going to take our frigates that are in Triton and Arrowhead formation, and because they both have the same weapon, we're going to combine the dice. And because they have light max. And of course our heavy carrier, not our heavy carrier, but our heavy cruiser also has a heavy mac, and that would be 8 dice. So all together we would have 15 dice that would be rolling using our front weapon, and we would add it all together and roll it all at once. And that's why you get quite a few dice. But there's a few things that we need to talk about. Because we're aiming at a small ship, they have certain abilities. And I'm not going to get too much into the abilities, but what it's going to do is affect this fire rating chart. So we're starting at a 4, and because we're short range, we would be at a 5, firing our light max. But because the Covenant have a defense array, that would minus it down to 4. Plus they have they also have their small, which means they're elusive. We would minus it down to 3. And they have point defense, which will bring it down. Oh, their point defense is what the defense dice that they will roll. So we're going to be rolling on a crushing roll. Instead of having a devastating roll or an exploding roll, we will have a crushing roll. So what happens on this particular event, we do get 2 successes for each critical that we roll, but we do not get any re-rolls. And any hits are just 1 hits. And if we went down even farther, if we went down to 1, there's no dice roll because it's an impossible roll. A weakened roll Well, the 2s would be counted as 1, so you wouldn't get that double. So we're going to roll 15 dice here. And I'm going to get this out of the way, so we're going to actually see what we can do to this minor ship here. So we're going to zoom back out, and let's see how this all rolls out. So we have 8, and you get plenty of dice. 12 and 15. So we're going to roll all 15 dice. Oh, that one already wanted to miss. Okay, so we're going to take away all the misses here, because we don't get to re-roll them on a crushing roll. And we're going to take away all the fails. And what we have here is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 damage. So we're going to be doing 11 damage to this fighter here. Now it's their turn, and they have 3 defense dice. So they're going to roll their 3 defense dice. And wow, they rolled pretty good. They're not going to go down without a fight. So we're going to take away a 2 because they've got a critical there, and we're going to take away a 1. So let's see what that critical hit did. And I'm going to bring this ship forward, and we're going to take a look at it as we assign the damage. That leaves 8 points that have gotten through. So we would assign 4 here, which would take away and go through there, so they would take 1 damage. Okay, but now what happens before we assign this other damage, because we take care of each shielding at a time, the defense player has to roll to see if it is a critical. Now, if it's a critical, for a critical hit, what will happen is it'll take a vulnerability token. And I'll show you what that means. And if it landed on this, it'll be vulnerable. And no, it's not. But let's say it did, just for sakes. What would happen is they would get a token that would be put here. And what would happen is that 4 would become a 3, and the 3 would become a 2. So say they didn't make any saves like they did, well, they would have went through here, and then if they had that 3 and a 2 there, that would have went through and been able to do something and take it all the way out. But instead, we'll assign the 4 to what is now the 3, and then whatever goes over would go over here to the 2, but it's not enough to take it out. So they would also get, because it went by, they would have to roll 1 more time. And as you can see, nothing happened, no critical. But there was no critical rolled, and instead all they got was 2 damage tokens. Now what happens with that is, now because these are damaged and have been damaged twice, when they go to attack back, they are minus. They have to take out 2 hits because of that. And if it was vulnerable, like I said, they would have to take 2 damage dice actually out of the equation if they were able to roll successes. So then what would happen from there is, after the UNSC fired all its secondary weapons, and say they decided to take that out, or maybe they decided to split up their fire if they wanted to, then the Covenant would get their chance at it. Now, if there were additional battle groups in here, then what would happen is this battle group would go, their battle group would go, then back here another battle group that may be over here would go, and then the same with the Covenant. And you would alternate in between battle groups. So then once that's all done, they would fight to the very end, or whatever objective may be in the campaign module. This game could be played with anywhere from 2 to 4 players, even more depending on how many battle groups. You can have each person take a battle group. There's a lot of intricate rules that can be added to it, or you can simplify it and just play it the way I kind of showed you, where it's just a nice, easy, light battle game without all the nuances in it. But this game really has a lot of meat to it as well, and is very deep if you really want to add everything in together. Once everything is all taken care of, then would be the end phase, and then you would roll for initiative again, and then start the whole process all over again. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much Halo Fleet Battles. So let's go up top and get my thoughts. Wow. Besides dungeon crawls, space battles, I'm a sucker for. And, you know, this was something that I picked up and I said, Halo, well, I know the video game, I know a bit of the story, I played the first couple, and I thought to myself, wow, you know, it's Spartan Games. I've got all their other games, which I will be doing reviews in the future, Dystopian Wars and Firestorm Armada. They make some really good games. I go, maybe they can pull this off. And I have to admit, they did pull this off. I think it's very well put together. It does have those three elements, though, that sometimes may not appeal to everybody. One, when you get it, it's all on sprues and you're going to have to put it together. If you're going to want to paint it, that's the second thing. And then, of course, by the time you're done, then you're going to have to learn it and play it. So you've got a game, you've got a hobby where you build something, and then you got something that you can paint as well. So if that's not your thing, this may not be for you. But if you do like that thing, very easy to build this stuff. Goes together very nicely. The models, I think the sculpts are very, very beautiful on them. Spartan has always done top-notch work. They're not a company that a lot of people know of. I do know them because I'm basically a miniature gamer. But they always do top of the line. And I think they did the Halo franchise justice, because the backstory and everything that comes with this, you really do get the feel, and it is very thematic, and you feel it. You could see how the Covenant are really, really powerful with the certain weapons and abilities that they have, and you know, with the titanium armor and some of the other things that, you know, we didn't talk about a lot of the abilities or anything like that, that really shine with the UNSC. You know, you could tell that they're kind of on the run here, and just like the story, pretty much. Now, like I said, I think this is a very, very good game. I think it's great. I think the dice chucking, you know, it can get a bit heavy, so that took away from it a little bit. But I think overall, the bases and the trying to keep the ships on, unfortunately you have to glue them on, and you really don't want to, because you're not supposed to, because you're supposed to be able to take the cards off, but they do come loose. So that's one of the negatives of the game also. But I have to say, I do approve of this game. You know, that's 2 for 2 on licensing. I'm really surprised. First Alien versus Predator, and now Halo Fleet Battles. So, you know, maybe people are starting to figure it out. I guess we'll figure out with the next one that I do. But we'll see how that goes. But as far as Halo Fleet Battles, I've got to give it a 7 out of 10. And I want to see, and I want to get some of the bigger ships that they're supposed to be coming out with, and see how that adds to it, and just get the fleet even bigger. But this box set, you get everything, and everything is high quality, top of the line. I think you're really going to enjoy this if you want to take the venture and try it out. Halo Fleet Battles, I think you'll enjoy it. And that's it for this review. So until next time, I'm Oren, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.